You're here already! Hi! Welcome to Steven's Kitchen. It seems a little bright today. Maybe I should start wearing a hat. How are you all doing? I'm going to cook you breakfast this morning. It was interesting because I was looking for suggestions last week and somebody suggested quiche. I've never cooked it. Well, I've cooked quiche many times, but I've never made the crust and I've never made it in cast iron. So that's been my challenge for the week, is making a quiche with a crust in cast iron. So I had to look around and find find a crust recipe that I liked and that I thought was simple. I've not made pies, with the traditional sweet pies with the crust underneath. So this was a challenge for me and I appreciated it. So, what I'm going to make for you this morning, I've got a quiche in the oven already. I'll show you in a little bit, and there's a story behind that one. I'm going to make Steven's favorite. It's asparagus and leeks and mushrooms and sausage. If you've never cooked with a leek before, have you cooked with leeks? They look like green onions on hormones, but they're sweeter and milder than an onion. So I really like them. He had never had one before, and I cooked up leeks for him and an omelet one time. He was like, "Oh, that's really good." So leeks, if you haven't done leeks, you should do leeks. The things to be careful with a leek is the way they're grown. You see all this whiter part down here and green. This is the section that people will usually use when they're cooking. But leeks start out on the ground. As they grow taller, they heap more sand and dirt up around them, so that this gets paler and paler and you get a longer thing. If you didn't heap the ground on them, this would all be green and you'd have just a little bit of white on it. So because they're heaping the dirt and sand up and whatnot, you can get dirt and sand on the inside. So the best idea is to cut them in half first and kind of rinse out the leaves a little bit and then do your chopping to use them. Okay? That's one of my hints for the day. The other thing is, my baby girl says I'm the best dad. The other thing is asparagus. As soon as I bring asparagus home from the store, I put it in water. This keeps it fresh up to a week and keeps the tops all firm and perky and whatnot so that they're ready to be used. So I highly suggest, if you're buying asparagus, fresh asparagus, put it in a cup of water in the refrigerator. That'll keep it fresh longer. Excuse me a moment while I put these back in the fridge. So, I'm going to start my pan here. I'm putting my pan on a medium low. I've already cooked all my sausage and everything, but before I put this into the quiche, I want to saute the asparagus and the leeks in a little bit of butter first to kind of soften and cook things through a little bit. So what I did, I got everything in here, my mushrooms, my asparagus, my sausage, my leeks. It's all in here ready to go. Like I say, the sausage is pre-cooked. I just cooked a pound up and divvied it up for my different recipes this morning. So I'm just going to let this saute on low heat while I make my pie dough. Like I say, I've never made it before. I found this recipe, 4 ingredients, really easy, and it's good. I got up early this morning and I made quiche for breakfast using this pie dough recipe, because how could I present it to you if I've never cooked it before? What's backward? Oh yeah, it's always, the wording's all backwards. I don't know how to flip it. It says best dad. Okay, just so we're not confused. So this pie dough recipe, like I say, uber easy. 1 cup of flour, and you're going to want to use 2 bowls for this. 1 cup of flour, don't go too far with this because you'll need it on your cutting board. A teaspoon of salt. Not a teaspoon. a half teaspoon of salt. This is a little thing I saw in one of those hack shows. You got your mason jar, which I like to keep everything in mason jars because it's nice and tight. When you buy your little thing of blue salt and whatnot, cut the top off. And see, you got your little pour spout right in the top of that and all your salt in here, rather than having some cardboard thing that you never really see into. So it's a nice little hack. I've got my flour and my salt in here, and I'm going to mix the flour and salt to make sure that's well blended. Okay. Now, I'm taking a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Isn't that cute for olive oil? I like it. I also have one like this that I keep dish soap into. Just one of those things in life that makes you smile. Sorry, excuse me. The last ingredient, so we've got the flour and salt in there. We have a 1/4 cup olive oil in there and a 1/4 cup of iced or very, very, very cold water. Okay? That's it. Give this a stir. Make sure everything's cooking and sauteing up here. It looks good and it smells good. And there's no law that says you have to have sausage in it if you just want to go for a vegetable. Okay. Now, the cold water and the olive oil, you want to beat that up so it's all kind of broken up into each other. You know, it's not going to blend real well because oil and water don't mix, but you end up in the cold water, you can break the olive oil up almost into an emulsion. It's still separated, but it's together. And once I got that kind of blended together, I'm going to pour it across my flour. And then just hit it with a spatula. And this is blending together. In traditional pie doughs, you would use butter and break up that butter into little pea size, you know, like we had done with our biscuits. And with this recipe, you're using that olive oil and breaking things up. So here's my crust. Okay, got to flour my board. After I stir my stuff up. And I did put a little salt and pepper in there. Always please remember salt and pepper and season. I don't always remember to tell you, but I've done it. So a little flour on my board. That's why the jars are handy. You don't have to bring out the 10-pound bag of flour and scoop in there and sprinkle around. Look how cute the little pie crust is. See that? Isn't that? It all comes together real nice. The instructions didn't say to chill it, but I imagine chilling it wouldn't be a bad idea. But this worked right out of the pot for me before in the other one. And I do know with a crust you don't want to manhandle it too much because you want your butter or your oil to stay on the chili side. Wax paper. My marble rolling pin broke. Someday I will get a new marble rolling pin. My friend Lisa was over here one time, and she looked at my marble rolling pin sitting on the counter, which came from my mother. And she says, "Oh, you got to be careful. Mine fell off and hit the floor and shattered and broke tiles and all this stuff." And sure enough, about a week later, I was walking by and it caught my shirt and went to the floor and split in half. Maybe for Christmas. But it still works to roll. Again, no expert on pie dough here. So I'm just trying to roll it out big. There. That'll be enough. You can make your quiches in any of your pans of any size that you want to. The one I've got in the oven is in a 6-inch pan. The one I'm going to make now is in a 6-inch pan, so it's good for 2 people. If you got a lot of people over that you're cooking for, you could use a 12-inch or a 10-inch skillet to put your dough in and make it work. Let me grab my pan out of the oven that's been preheating. Okay. Can you see all the way over? No, you can't. All right. Let me rearrange things here a bit. So that's got all my hot mess in it to make my quiche with. I'm sure some of those professional food places will be overjoyed with me referring to my food as a hot mess. But it's a mess of stuff together, and I'm heating it up, and I'm going to eat it. So I can call it whatever I want. So there's my crust. Too much light. There we go. See that? Now my pan is preheated. And my dough is sticking. It's coming off. And I'm just kind of working it around and up the sides a little bit in here. Now my oven and my pan preheated to 400 degrees. So don't burn yourself. Okay. All right. So that's all in there. Now to add my hot mess. So you can see the leeks and the sausage and the leeks and the sausage and the mushrooms and the asparagus in there. I don't want everything cooked so it's such a mush, so when you're eating this you're just biting mush. I like a little texture left in. So here goes that. All in my pan. Yay! Okay, that's in there. Now, I gotta whoop me some eggs. After I clean off my cutting board here. Bench scraper, I'm telling you, best thing. Maybe someday I'll have minions that can trade out cutting boards for me and bowls and stuff as I need them. Ha ha ha. Okay. In my bowl now. Excuse me while I give it a quick rinse. Okay. 4 eggs. By the way, the pot pies I made last week, we still got a couple little pieces in the freezer, but we pretty much ate those throughout the week. Oh, you want the fancy one? Voila. One-handed. That's 2. 3 and 4. Now, classic, most of the classic recipes for a quiche will call for nutmeg. So, eggs, nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, something like that. I put my eggs in the bowl and then I sprinkle nutmeg all over the top. And once they're kind of covered in a little dusting of nutmeg, I'm good. How's that for measuring things? Okay, and now I need some milk. And someday I'll have maybe 2 cameras or 3 cameras so that I don't have to keep showing you my back going to my refrigerator. So about a 1/2 cup to a cup of milk. I'm giving you my best guess amounts on some of these because I don't have exact recipes for a lot of things. It's just making things up. So now I'm going to whip this egg mixture together. Breaking up those yolks. Yay. Okay, so that's mixed. Some people will put the cheese in the eggs. I just put the cheese across the top of this thing. And then the eggs are going to blow through and surround everything. I'm using a Monterey Jack today. Most of the time in my quiches, I really like to smoke Gouda. Some people don't like to say Gouda. They say Gouda. I don't go around saying Chowda and Gouda. I just put in the cheese. So I really like I say, the smoked Gouda is a real good one to use in here, but we didn't have any. So I got Monterey Jack today. All right. So we've got the crust in there. We've layered it with all of our vegetables. And here goes in the egg mixture. Yay! Oh, I don't need to clean dishes while I'm talking to you, sorry. So now this is going to go in the oven for about a half hour or so. It's a smaller pan. It may not... what did I make it in this morning? I used an 8-inch pan this morning, and it took about a half hour, 35 minutes. This is a 6-inch pan, so I'm guessing about a half hour. Again, make these recipes yours. Find out what works for you. Don't make a recipe once and give up on it. If there's something you don't like in a recipe the first time you make it, tweak it and adjust it so that you're happy with it. You know, maybe you have to make it a couple days in a row or a couple weeks in a row and get comfortable with it. Add the ingredients that you like, take away the ingredients that you don't. Tip for the day. We're going there with that. The other thing that I like to make for breakfast quite often is a frittata. I've never made quote-unquote Mexican food. I made the Americanized versions of stuff. I don't know the exact directions and the specifics of making a frittata, but frittata is the best way I can describe this. You missed the crust, you'll have to go back and watch. It's a really easy crust. Do you like my shirt? Thanks. I thought this shirt was really cool until I saw somebody wearing it in a movie, and it's like, oh no, do I look like that? Anyway. So my frittata. I'm using my 8-inch skillet this morning, the one that I made the omelet, or the quiche in this morning. Hey Siri, give me 30 minutes on a timer. And Siri did, thank you. Okay. So for this frittata, I've already done onions and my sausage. Sausage is cooked up, onions aren't. So I'm going to add that to my pan. Because I do want to cook up the onions just a little bit, take some of the crusty off of them. Also, before the show, I shredded up a couple very small potatoes. Soak them in water so they don't turn brown and nasty. That's just a timer. It's not the fire alarm. We're safe this week. That's just telling me to check on my other quiche soon, and I just looked at it. So with these potatoes, I'm going to squeeze out all the water I can. If your potatoes have a lot of water, you know, around them, they're going to steam and they're not going to brown right. So I'm mixing that into my pan. And I have just a little bit of butter in there. Okay. Rinse my hands off since I got potato all over it. Okay. Now, I just got to get that cooked up, browned up a little bit. Once that pan is hot and things are cooked, then I'm going to add my eggs to it and put it back in the oven. And the frittata can be any of the ingredients you like for breakfast. I like potatoes and onions and sausage. I could have used leek in there. Could have used bacon in there. You use whatever meats and whatever vegetables you like. What you got on hand, what makes it good to you. I think in a traditional frittata, they probably have like tomatoes or something in it. which would be really good. I have made them with a layer of used jarred salsa and just pour jarred salsa over the top of it. It's a little hot. So I just want the potatoes to cook up. I need just a little bit more butter in there. So I'm just going to add like a tablespoon. There. I use butter, or sometimes, go back and forth between butter and olive oil, or use a combination of the two. Okay. There. While that is all simmering up, and the potatoes and onions are cooking a little bit and softening a little bit. Thank you, Ron. Ron said I could have a show on one of those major networks. But I think I'm too shy. Okay. Back to work. So, for this frittata, I'm going to use 6 eggs. Again, I'm making it up as I go. Totally depends on how many people you're feeding, how big your pan is. If you use less eggs, you're going to get more of the potato bites and the onions and everything else you got in there. If you use more eggs, then it's kind of side. So you want to try to find a happy balance between the two. And again, that's all up to you and what you like. And if you're in my family and eating the food, you're going to get it the way I like. So, 6 eggs, splash of milk. Salt and pepper to taste. Not that I'm going to. No. And again, dip it into my kosher salt. All right. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. Yay. Okay. The potatoes were nice and shredded, so they're softening up now already, and so are the onions. I think I hit it again over here. So, here's my eggs and milk. Salt and pepper. Beating that up. Okay, now I'm just going to pour this over all the stuff in the pan. And I do want to make sure that it's all mixed in there. I don't want clumps that didn't get covered with eggs. So I want to make sure the eggs are distributed. And the eggs, because the pan is hot, are going to start setting right away. Now, more of my Monterey Jack. You can use cheddar, mozzarella. Again, I'm all about what's in the house. Oh, here's a story I kept thinking of during the week. I'm going to pull out the one frittata I had done earlier. I like to rest them all, but put this one in, then I'm going to tell you a story. That's my quiche. You can quiche the cook. Okay, I'm putting this one in. My older sister Pam and I, when we had first growed up, She had a house, I had an apartment and whatnot. And we used to always remark, Mom, I hope you're watching, used to always talk about how we could go to Mom's house, write down a list of everything. She had her refrigerator and freezer and cabinets and whatnot. Go home, put the same things in our cabinets and refrigerator, and would never find a thing to cook. Whereas Mom would go in there and she would just find a ton of stuff, put it all together, and we'd eat these meals. I finally gotten to that point in my life where I can figure out enough things that go with other things and put it all together. So that's where a lot of my recipes come from, is just putting things together. Okay. While this is sitting for a few minutes, I have to grab my other pan. So I also promised you stuffed French toast. This has been a big hit every time I've made it. Turn my grill on. Okay. Now, I found these wonderful blackberries at the store yesterday. So I am doing blackberries with stuffed French toast. And I put my eggs and milk away again, excuse me. And all these things that I've made this morning, we'll eat up in the next couple days. Or again, put stuff in the freezer and eat it. Quiches will freeze. I freezed them before. I like to section them off into portions and freeze them, so then we can just take them and throw them in whenever we want to. Dobby? Dropped an eggshell on the floor. I don't want the dog eating that. Okay. Little milk. Oh, vanilla! Remember my vanilla that I showed you that I made? It smells so good. I wish you could smell it. It's just vodka and vanilla beans that I've had this for about 6 months or so. I've been using it. Okay. And cinnamon. So a couple eggs, milk, cinnamon, vanilla. We're all set there. Every time I have made stuffed French toast around it's that quick, it's gone. The boys will eat 2 pieces of toast sliced up, we will. So we usually go through about 8 slices if it's just the 4 of us. You know, we'll each go through 1 sandwich, and then usually I have to make a couple extra just in case. Okay. Now I'm going to butter up my grill a bit. Oh, that's hot. That's very hot. Let's turn it down a little bit. So, I'm going to make 4 slices of French toast to make my stuffed French toast. Just dumping it in there. The longer it sits in your batter, the better your French toast is, because it absorbs more, and that's what gives you that crusty inside, or that custardy inside. If you don't give it a chance to really soak everything up, then you've basically got just bread covered with egg. Not as tasty. Ideally, you would take your bread out the night before, leave it on the counter so it gets a little stale and hard, because then it really sucks up more of your good stuff. Perfect. That's my 4 pieces that I wanted this morning. I have to stop cleaning in front of you. So, what I've done is taken like a half a brick of cream cheese and added a couple tablespoons of milk to it and beat that up. So that the cream cheese, you're not trying to put cream cheese all over it, that hard block. A little bit of milk will just loosen it up enough so it's more spreadable. Okay? Now what I'm also going to do, I got all these beautiful blackberries. They have just a little tartness to them, which are great. I'm just going to cut them in half and put them in there. Now some of the blackberry juice is going to bleed, but you know what? It's going to make the cream cheese real pretty. So by the time I slice these and put them in here, my toast should be ready to be turned over. And I think I'm going to have more than enough stuffing for 2 sandwiches here. I'll just have to make more tomorrow. But blackberries, I've used frozen blueberries in this. And the frozen blueberries tend to hold up their shape a little bit more as they're going through the cooking process and everything. Because they're frozen, they're not falling apart and melting and everything else. Just checking. Okay. These are for me. They're so good. Okay. So I'm going to very gently mix this up. I don't want to destroy the shape of the blackberries, but I want them incorporated into the cream cheese. Now look at the color we're getting in there. The little drips of color through. So good. No, I won't sit down and eat this later. Maybe I'll sit down and eat some of this later. Okay. I'm going to flip my toast. There we go. It's a little bit darker. Whoops! Come back, come back. Oh! There. Might be a hair darker than I normally would get it, but that's okay. So now that they're turned over and cooking on the other side, I'm going to put the cream cheese, milk, and berries on top of the other side. Stop! Cooperate with me. People are watching. Okay. So putting them on now while the other side cooks helps the cream cheese to warm up a little bit more. So it's nice and fresh and gooey. What do you know? I didn't use it all. Oh, whoa. Okay. The other thing I'll show you after we finish these sandwiches is how to clean one of these griddles real easy. Nobody tells you that. I will. So. Those are pretty well cooked on that side. There, look at that. Wasn't that quick and easy? Now you have a fairly fancy breakfast, quick and easy in the morning. I'm going to let these sit for a minute. I'm going to show you how to clean one of these grills. The first job I ever had in my life was at a fast food restaurant that had a grill. And throughout the day, when things would start getting crusty on the grill, we had to clean it. Well, you know what we did? We took a wet towel, threw it on there, and moved it over the whole grill, and that cleaned it up. Well, that's what I started doing with my cast iron griddle. So I've got 2 paper towels here that are just dampened a little bit, wrung out. I throw those on the grill. And I just push it around. So it kind of steam cleans the grill and dries it all up at the same time because it's still hot. See, look at that. That's all the dirt from there. They cleaned it all off. Now once that cools and dries, it's all set to go. Okay. The other thing that's nice about this stuffed French toast, you don't even need any syrup or powdered sugar or anything on it. You've got the sweetness of the berries in it. Okay. Take a little bite here. It's going to be hot. I'll try not to burn myself. Can you see that bite there? Like I say, it's a little bit browner than I normally would go. But the cream cheese, and you can see some bits of berry have worked their way in there. You could say it's very, very sweet, Lydia, my friend. The curse of the Santa Claus. It's so good. Blackberries are a little tart. Cream cheese. There, how's that? That cream cheesy taste we all love. It's so good. Okay. So good. You can see the berry sticking out in there. That's a big berry. The cream cheese is just warmed up just a little bit. And that berry is so good. But how long did that take me to make? It's something special for a Sunday morning before church. This and coffee. And coffee. Oh, there we go, the beard thing again. Okay, let's find out about that quiche now. Can you see that? Okay, this quiche. Stephanie, are you listening? I hope you're listening, baby girl. Years ago, I started making an omelet with sausage and grilled onions and cream cheese. And I would cook the sausage, grill the onions, stir around cream cheese, and I'd put that into an omelet. And everybody's like, ew, 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 ew. Can I have a bite? Gave him a bite. To my friend Gloria and Stephanie. And they're like, oh. So after that, it was any holidays or anything. It's like, I want a grilled onion and sausage omelet. Became the favorite throughout the house. I adore you too, Samantha. Samantha's my friend. Not to say that the rest of you aren't. But... Aww. You guys. Okay. Let me give this a quick wipe here. Or perhaps I should have a plate. I'm so excited. So what I did, I made a grilled onion, sausage, and cream cheese quiche. How many of you are drooling now? Look at this. And it slipped out of my pan. Slipped out of the cast iron pan. How non-stick is that, folks? Slipped out. Cast iron rocks. Now think if it's really a special occasion of some kind, and you used a couple of these little number 3s and made Valentine's Day, a birthday perhaps, make a couple little individual ones. Wouldn't that be fun? Oh, thank you, Wes. A lot of people do. They thought it was gross, but then they ate it and they're like, oh, this is wonderful. So Steven has learned that he sits back and he watches some of my combination. He's like, oh, I don't know, but I trust you. It's always good. And there's been a couple hits and misses, or a couple misses, mostly hits. But that's why I got these. And I know an antique store locally around the corner here that has like 6 of these right now. And I think they're $3 or $5 each. So when I can get my cast iron allowance back again, maybe. Okay. Let's cut into this now. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's cut into it with a knife. The cream cheese in here, I beat the cream cheese up with the eggs and then poured it all over things. But the cream cheese wasn't so broken up into tiny little pieces. There were chunks of it, so I'm seeing the chunks of cream cheese in here. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh. I'm going to start having tasters. There's no way around it, because you got to hear more than just me. See the cream cheese and the sausage? I didn't get any onion in that bite. Happy dance. Oh my gosh. You can see the grilled onions coming from the top here. So good. Okay, I have to put it down now or you can watch the rest of the show, me eating this thing. So good. Okay. Let me see what's happening in the oven. So this is the one we put in, the leek and asparagus one. It's going to need a few more minutes yet. And the frittata will as well. About 5 more minutes. Do you have any questions? Any questions? Wes, if you want to come on over now, you can have some tastes of things. Okay? Just throwing it out there. Anybody want to rush on over and have a few bites? You're more than welcome to. Oh, exciting news. At the end of September, the last Saturday, how about October? The last Saturday of October, I'm going to be doing a 2-hour live demonstration at a local store. They're going to announce it and stuff on their website. I think I might have already announced it on Facebook. But I'm going to be doing breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert there. It is going to be so cool. Oh, Wes, you're in Denver? Yeah, that would be a drive. Do you know the eggs need more time because they still jiggle? Or a better way to know. Thanks, Samantha. What I'm looking for is an evenly browned crust, or evenly browned over the cheeses on the top. When it's browned just a little bit, then I know the eggs are cooked through. That's how I kind of tell. But I have also used the magic bamboo skewer. And just pushed it in there to see if it comes out wet or dry like you would a cake. So that's another easy way of telling things. What did you put on the cast iron skillet to make that quiche slide out so easy? Butter, oil? Was it the regular seasoning? It was the regular seasoning of the skillet. I do, and remember, the crust that I used was, flour and salt, olive oil, and water. So I think some of that olive oil helps as well. But I do make sure that if the pan doesn't look, after it's heated up in there, if it doesn't look kind of wettish, you know, like it's like this, how do I describe it? If the pans look kind of metalish, like they're dryish, I know they need a little extra help. So then I'll throw some shortening, just hit the sides and stuff with shortening. And that helps things not to stick. But if it comes out of the oven preheated and it's looking all black and even and everything, then I know it's pretty good. You do want to, a lot of times on the sides of the pans, because you're not cooking on the sides of the pans so much, you want to maybe hit just a little bit of extra oil or something around the sides. I still have to work on my crust a little bit because I'm not getting my crust all the way up the sides of the pan. So I'm going to have to play with that crust a little bit to get it a little higher up. But I'm not even pre-cooking the crust. This crust, the dough spread out, rolled it, boom, in there, and all the fillings on top of it. And that's working out pretty good for me today. Worked out good this morning too. Good questions. Hi, Jess. Okay. See, I'll go back to this one and show you the crust. This crust did not stick anywhere on the sides. Do you see that? Yeah. It's not a sweet crust like you would get sometimes with a pie crust, but it holds all the eggs and everything like it's supposed to. So that's a good thing. But this crust got up pretty good on the sides. So you can see it. A little bit of egg leaked over here, down around it, but for the most part, the crust held up well. Okay, this is looking good. This is looking browned around the edges. Okay, it's looking pretty set in the middle. But you can tell too. You know when you cook a cake and you see the edges are just starting to separate a little bit from the sides? You know your cake is done. That's how I'm kind of looking at these quiches as well. Usually I've made them with the frozen pie crust like everybody else, but since I'm using my cast iron pan, I'm not just going to throw a frozen pie crust in my cast iron pan. And I don't think they make frozen crusts specific to cast iron pans. I'm just going to run my knife around and make sure it's all, oh yeah. I can smell the nutmeg in this. This is still so fiery hot, I'm not going to pull it out of here, but of course I'm going to take a bite. Okay. Last blackberry. And then our frittata should be up soon. So I'm just going to go for the side. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a good bite. That's all leek. Oh, hot. Okay. See the little asparagus peeking at you and the leeks hanging off? Stephanie, did you see the sausage cream cheese one? Sausage, grilled onion, cream cheese, Stephanie? Your favorite? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. That nutmeg just does something for it. It's wonderful. Okay. Now I'm going to pull out the frittata. The frittata doesn't take as long. You've got your pan screaming hot. Okay, whimpering hot. It's warm. You've heated up all your vegetables. You just put your eggs in there and the cheese on top. Okay, so it doesn't have a crust that has to cook through. So this kind of a frittata would cook a whole lot faster. Again, I would like a little bit more browning on that. Do you see it? And that's fiery hot. This is not going to slip out so easily because it doesn't have that crust on the bottom. But again, it's got to sit. before we can get into it. But I can just tell everything is cooked through nicely. Like I say, when you pull these out of the oven, usually let them rest for about 5 to 10 minutes or so. They're still going to be hot because the cast iron's hot. But that's going to give a chance for all the juices and flavors and whatnot to blend and settle just a little bit more before you start cutting into it. Like with any pie, you don't want to pull it out of the oven and cut it while it's still boiling hot. You want it to cool down and set just a little bit. So, you've had 2 quiches and a frittata and stuffed French toast. I hope that's enough to get your day going. I don't know what I'm doing next week yet, so again, looking for suggestions. So go ahead and throw it on out there. What would you like to see cooked in cast iron? I welcome your suggestions and ideas. Thank you. This is Stephen from My Kitchen. Glad to see you all again. See you all again next week. Hugs to you and your families. Bye-bye. Oh wait, how do I make it stop? Stop. Finish.